college student Zhang Qing wanted to ask Professor Yi to be her tutor, but was ruthlessly rejected. Professor Yi thought that his idea of using modern concepts to analyze the history of ancient literature was very absurd, so Zhang Qing had to find another way. He signed up to participate in the science fiction literature online competition held by Tencent, and wanted to express his ideas in the form of novels. The theme is that if life is to be lived again, use modern ideas to collide with ancient systems, and guide readers to cherish the present and live for the good. Professor Yi was attracted by his novel idea. Zhang Qing was encouraged, and said with great interest that he had already written the first few chapters, but he still lacked a name. While thinking about it, he happened to see Liu Yuqing, an excerpt from the second edition of A Dream of Red Mansions, next to the bookshelf. The Yi talked about the world in the book to Professor Yi. If you lived your life again, would you be able to go through it without regrets? A modern young man with myasthenia gravis wakes up with his eyes open, but becomes a baby in a bamboo basket. He still retains all the memories of modern society in his mind, but he is besieged by killers in ancient costumes. When in doubt, a whole new world is on the way. The baby in the bamboo basket was the protagonist of the novel, Fan Xian, and the man in black who escaped from the dead, named Wu Zhu, was the servant of Fan Xian's deceased mother. Wu Zhu escaped from the pursuit with Fan Xian on his back, and reunited with Qin Pingping, the director of the Nanqing Overwatch Council, who came with the Black Cavalry. When Qin Pingping heard the news of Fan Xian's mother's death, he felt sad and painful in his heart. He wanted to bring Fan Xian back to the capital, but Wu Zhu no longer trusted anyone. Seeing that Wu Zhu insisted on taking Fan Xian away, Qin Pingping had no choice but to suggest that he went to Danzhou City and raise Fan Xian with the help of the old lady. In this way, Fan Xian was fostered in his hometown in Danzhou, and in a blink of an eye, he had grown into a little boy. There was also a little girl of the same age as him in the house, the eldest young lady Fan Xian, the direct descendant of the Fan house. The two grew up together since childhood and had a very good relationship. Fan Xian was smart since he was a child, with red lips and white teeth. He was very handsome, but because he was Master Fan's illegitimate son, the old lady treated him neither coldly nor warmly, and Master Fan even ignored him, and he was faced with a lot of hardships. On this day, when he and Ruoro went out to play and came back, they saw that the bolter Zhou was showing off his strength and teaching his maid. Fan Xian spoke out to stop it, but bolter Zhou ignored it at all, and even brought out the old lady and said it was his own responsibility. Fan Xian was very angry, rolled his eyes, ran into the room and brought a stool. He climbed onto the stool and stood, asking butler Zhou to come over. Butler Zhou approached in the fog, but was suddenly slapped by Fan Xian so hard that he even knocked out his teeth, leaving a blood-red slap on his face. There was a difference between master and servant. Butler Zhou suffered a big loss. He complained to the old lady during dinner. The old lady removed the maid from Fan Xian's yard and sent Ruoro back to the capital. This night, the moon was dark and the wind was high. A masked man in black sneaked into Fan Xian's room, only to find that Fan Xian, who was supposed to be asleep, was sitting on the bed, and kept saying that he had finally come. The man in black was at a loss, but Fan Xian was moved to say that Daddy finally came to see him. Only then did the man in black know that he had made a mistake. Fan Xian took the porcelain pillow on the bed and slammed it on the head of the man in black. They run to find Wu Zhu from the grocery store next door to take care of the aftermath. It turned out that Wu Zhu sent him to Fan Mansion and did not leave, and had been secretly protecting him during his growing up. After Wu Zhu checked, he told Fan Xian indifferently that this person was not dead, and that he was not a bad person, but the manager of the third office of the Capital Inspection Institute. The next day, Fei Jie took Master Fan's letter to the old lady and officially became Fan Xian's teacher. Fei Jie looked wretched and behaved very inexplicably. He did not teach Fan Xian to read and write, nor did he practice martial arts and fitness, but took him to learn medicine and poison. The first lesson of studying medicine was to take Fan Xian to the mass graves late at night to dig graves and dissect the corpse. If he were an ordinary child, he would have been scared and crazy, but for Fan Xian, who had the soul of a modern adult, this was just a pediatrics. Besides, the place where he stayed the longest in his last life was the hospital. After dissecting the body overnight, Fan Xian went to Wuzhu to complain, and took the opportunity to inquire about his mother's deeds. Wuzhu just told his master's name is Qingmei, and he refused to say more about the rest. Seeing this, Fan Xian had no choice but to give up, and asked about the infuriating secret book he had practiced. Wuzhu couldn't be infuriated, and naturally he didn't know how to practice. After thinking about it, he brought Fan Xian to the bamboo forest in the suburbs and decided to help Fan Xian exercise his skills by hitting. In this way, during the devilish training of the two teachers, Fan Xian grew up quickly. Being poisoned became a common occurrence, and he was accustomed to being beaten. Although Fan Xian acted absurdly, he was teaching Fan Xian sincerely, while Wuzhu gave him wholehearted protection. These concerns filled Fan Xian's mature but empty heart. Time flies, and finally on this day, Fan Xian successfully used tonic to get Fan Xian in the trap. After all these years of getting along, the two were like father and son. For Fan Xian, in addition to Wuzhu, he had another person whom he could trust with all his heart. On the occasion of parting, Fan Xian gave Fan Xian the gut surgery gloves he had painstakingly developed, and Fan Xian also gave him the waist badge of the procurator's procurator as explained by the dean. Back at Fan's house, the old lady saw Fan Xian's desolate appearance and comforted him that Fan Xian's departure was a good thing. As long as he was in Danzhou for one day, it would attract the attention of the people of the capital. If the Red Knight appears on the streets of Danzhou, then the real danger will come. After Fan Xian heard this, he sat at the gate every day, waiting for the red-armored knight to appear. Time is like water, white horses pass by, just wait until he grows from a child to a handsome boy, and finally one day, a group of people wearing red armor appeared on the street.